This is Valley View News, and these are today's headlines. President Trump has arrived in Vietnam to discuss possible denuclearization with North Korea. And Porsche plans to release an all-green version of one of their most popular models.
Hello and welcome to Valley View News. I'm Scott Gierman.
And I am Leslie Estrada. The Democrat-controlled House passed a resolution to block President Trump's national emergency declaration. Now the bill goes to the Senate for a vote. If the Senate approves it, President Trump promises to veto the bill when it reaches his desk. The president declared a national emergency in order to secure $3.6 billion to fund his border wall plan. Democrats think that using a national emergency declaration to get funds is illegal.
Donald Trump and North Korean President Kim Jong-un arrived in Vietnam Tuesday. The two leaders will meet in Hanoi to discuss the possible denuclearization of the Korean peninsula. Trump and Un first met in Singapore last June to halt nuclear activity in the region. Trump took to Twitter and shared his positive mood after being greeted by hundreds of Vietnamese citizens.
Nearly 200 people were stranded on a train in deep snow for 36 hours and are now safe. The train got stuck after hitting a tree that had fallen onto the track Sunday evening. The train was originally headed to LA but had to pull back to Eugene, Oregon by a Union Pacific locomotive. The area received a record snowfall of 2 feet on Sunday.
A woman and her teenage daughter are charged with murder after allegedly choking 5 family members in Pennsylvania. The 45-year-old mother and her 19-year-old daughter are accused of killing 3 children and 2 adults. Police say the mother told them all the victims were talking about suicide. Detectives say the mother and daughter gave different stories. All the bodies were found facing up, close to the foot of the bed.
New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft is charged with 2 counts of first-degree solicitation. Florida State Attorney David Ehrberg says Kraft's arrest was part of an investigation of a massage parlor in Jupiter.
We are charging 25 individuals with soliciting another to commit prostitution.
In January, Kraft was videotaped entering the spa and engaging in sexual activity. Law enforcement officials say multiple workers appeared to live in the business with no access to life outside, raising suspicion of human trafficking. If convicted, Kraft could face 1 year in jail, a $5,000 fine, 100 hours of community service, and attend in a human trafficking danger class.
A woman has been hit and killed by a Metro bus. It happened early Tuesday morning near Wilshire Boulevard in South Rossmore. The victim has not been identified and no details were given on what may have caused the crash.
Lime bikes are all over CSUN campus. They're also scattered around the Northridge area, parked on sidewalks and in some yards. Will Lime bikes soon be the thing of the past around here? Valley View News' Terrell Gulliford explains.
The transportation company Lime will no longer rent bicycles on campus. Many CSUN students use Lime bikes to get around. A UC Davis study shows that nearly half of all college students bike to school. CSUN sustainability coordinator Clayton Scott says Lime bikes were a better transportation method and good for the environment.
Bikes, after they're made, just rely on human power versus using other forms of transportation like cars or even like flying or taking a train.
The bike sharing program gave CSUN students who don't drive a faster way to campus than walking. Now, with the removal of Lime bikes, some think bus ridership may increase. This grad student agrees. He thinks without Lime bikes, students are forced to commute by other means.
The only thing you could use is the bus. Other than that, there's no form of other transportation. I know they've had like little carts here and there, but that was only for like little parts at the time. So there's nothing really.
Some students may now face a time crunch when trying to get to campus.
Well, if they don't have their own bike, then it's definitely useful. So they will be late to class. I don't know, they can't commute to school.
The transportation company Lime has officially ended its contract with the university. All signs and any postings advertising Lime will be removed March 19th. I'm Terrell Gulliford in Northridge for Valley View News.
Parts of the U.S. face at least another month of cold, wet, and windy weather. Winter Storm Ryan will spread across the upper U.S., continuing to drop snow from Eugene, Oregon, through the Midwest to southern New England. The storm is adding heavy rains to northern California, triggering flooding and debris flows. With all the storms, the Midwest is predicted to see 10% more tornadoes than in 2018. States that'll be impacted the most include Oklahoma, Kansas, parts of Nebraska, and Texas.
A new study says California's next big one may not be an earthquake. It could actually be a volcano. The U.S. Geological Survey predicts this volcano will erupt in the next 30 years, and it's certain to happen. The report says more than 200,000 people live, work, and pass through the volcanic hazard areas in the northern part of the state, and all of these lives are in harm's way. The last eruption, Mount Lassen, occurred in Northern California between 1914 and 1917.
86 tons of Boston Market's pork rib patties were recalled. They may be contaminated with glass or plastic. The U.S. Department of Agriculture calls this a Class 1 recall. This means there is a good chance a person will get sick or die from eating the food. People who bought patties should throw them away or return them to the store.
CSUN is at the forefront in using a special treatment for people with Parkinson's disease. Valley View News' Natalia Vivino has a story.
They fasten their seatbelts.
Great, good.
You gather the flowers. He washes his clothes.
CSUN's Language, Speech, and Hearing Center is offering treatment for Parkinson's patients.
Good.
With the help of trained professionals and students, they're learning how to strengthen their voices through speech therapy. One patient says it gives him hope.
I was at first in denial, and now I've accepted it. But I've accepted it as something that I can conquer.
The Parkinson's Foundation says nearly 10 million people are diagnosed worldwide. Symptoms include tremors and difficulty moving, but speech can also be impaired. CSUN-assisted patients are given 12 private sessions on campus. After that, they join a maintenance group called the Loud Crowd.
And at the end, you can stop a little, take a replenishment breath, and go back down. So it's not just a quick therapy that they do and then forget about. It's really kind of encouraging lifelong habits that they can maintain.
CSUN's program is funded by a Texas-based organization called the Parkinson Voice Project. Their mission is to spread awareness of the disease. They also provide intensive speech therapy for patients.
Can I have you do that one more time with a little bit more intent, Louise?
Okay.
Loud Crowd meetings involve various speech warm-ups and exercises. They also feature ad-libbed scenarios like ordering a meal at a restaurant. CSUN's Language, Speech, and Hearing Center coordinator Janice Woolsey says the group meetings are the most important part of the therapy.
People with Parkinson's tend to feel isolated, and to have a place where they can come and be together is just so important.
Woolsey says she hopes the program will expand to patients in the surrounding area. She encourages them to spread the word so they can get the treatment they need. In Northridge for Valley View News, I'm Natalia Vivino.
A federal judge in Texas has ruled the all-male draft is unconstitutional. Judge Gray Miller says the time has long passed for a debate on women in the military. Current law requires all males to register for the draft at age 18. The government wanted the judge to hold off on his ruling until a congressional commission has a chance to review the current selective service system. Its report, due next year, could recommend mandatory draft registration or public service for both men and women.
Fannie Lou Hamer was a leader in women's rights, voting rights, and African American civil rights movements. She once said of her struggles, "I am sick and tired of being sick and tired." Valley View News reporter Veronica Barriga takes a look at a one-woman show and explains about Hamer here on campus.
Stagehands are on deck and lighting cues are called as performance artist Mzuri Moyo Mbaye moves through rehearsal. It's for her one-woman show, The Fannie Lou Hamer Story. Hamer was a civil rights activist. During the 1960s, she was jailed and beaten for exercising her right to vote and for encouraging others to do the same.
People don't realize that after they amended the 14th Amendment, it took 95 years for blacks to be able to vote after that, after slavery ended.
The show pays tribute to Hamer's testimony at the 1964 Democratic Convention, which many say helped pass the Voting Rights Act the next year. Professor Cedric Hackett was instrumental in bringing the performance here to CSUN as part of the university's Black History Month program.
Looking at historical memory, it's important for us to not be cut off from history, but to understand it so that when we're moving forward, we're not making any of the same mistakes that happened before us. And for people of African descent in terms of promoting racial pride and uplift.
For Mbaye, the project is personal. She says it allowed her to transform her anger and change her life.
Fannie Lou Hamer's rage was channeled, mine wasn't, you know, so I felt that doing this performance, writing this play and performing it after 18 years, I've had a way to channel my anger and my life is so much better.
Mbaye hopes her performance can inspire others in their darkest days. But the real takeaway, she says, can be found in Fannie Lou's favorite song.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. That they can shine their light, you know? Everybody has a light, and they should shine it.
In Northridge, for Valley View News, I'm Veronica Barriga.
San Francisco has removed more than 8,000 marijuana criminal cases in the last 3 years. Voters passed Proposition 64 in 2016 to eliminate several pot-related crimes. San Francisco's DA announced a partnership with Code for America, a nonprofit organization that uses technology to make parts of the government more efficient. He says Code for America helped dismiss or reduce 9,300 marijuana cases dating back to 1975.
California lawmakers are considering allowing people to take animals from the pavement to their plate. Montebello Democratic Senator Barb Archuleta says people who kill an animal on the road will be able to take it home and have it for dinner. CSUN students seem to be a little confused by Senate Bill 395.
Well, honestly, I haven't really heard much about the proposition myself. Now hearing about it, it's a little strange. I haven't really thought of people, running over roadkill and taking them for themselves for consumption and whatnot.
I guess that makes sense. Venison's always good, but how many people in California are going to fit a deer in their Prius, you know?
20 states currently allow roadkill to grill.
Here's Valley View's Claire Hambrick with entertainment news.
R. Kelly signs autographs at a McDonald's after bailing out of jail. Video shows him with his entourage eating food at a booth in Chicago. It also showed Kelly walking into a cigar bar. Fans were seen cheering for him. The singer spent the weekend in jail on sexual abuse charges involving 4 women. Ariana Grande is returning to Manchester for the first time since a terrorist attack killed 22 people in 2017. She will headline the Pride Festival in August. Oscar ratings were up 12% this year. The show had 29.6 million viewers, that's more than last year, but less than 2017. It was the first hostless Oscars in 30 years. Also, the show was 40 minutes shorter than last year. The Washington Post said TV critics had less to say because there was no host, just the usual celebrity presenters and musical performers. This past weekend, Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper had one of the most outstanding performances at the Oscars. They took over the stage with no formal introduction and began singing Shallow.
In the shallow, we're far from the shallow now.
The co-stars of A Star is Born received a positive standing ovation at the theater, and social media went gaga. The song Shallow was the only win for A Star is Born Sunday night. Trevor Noah pulled off a hidden joke on the Oscars. The South African native joked about the Black Panther movie in a Xhosa language, claiming the phrase meant, "We are stronger when we fight together instead of apart," but it actually means white people don't know I'm lying. A USC film historian compared Noah's hidden message to Sitting Bull's 1883 victory speech. He used a phrase later revealed to mean he hates all white people for being liars and thieves. This past weekend saw a new box office leader. How to Train Your Dragon 3 premiered, racking up more than $55 million. The opening is the most successful in the Train Your Dragon franchise. It's also the biggest opening in 2019 so far. In second place was Alita: Battle Angel. Third went to the Warner Brothers' The Lego Movie 2. Among the movies opening this weekend, Tyler Perry's A Medea Family Funeral and a documentary about Neil Armstrong and Apollo 11's mission to the moon. That's all your entertainment news. I'm Claire Hambrick.
More to come on Valley View News. Venezuelan soldiers are leaving their posts.
And what researchers have found in some alcoholic beverages.
Hi, Meals on Wheels. I'm Marco. I'm a college student, and I volunteer as a driver for Meals on Wheels. I think it's awesome meeting these people. I mean, they're so interesting. They've had so many wonderful experiences in life. Your community helps to raise you up into the person that you become. Meals on Wheels is a great way to give back to that community.
I've come up with a family emergency plan.
What is it?
It's difficult to talk about, so I'm not telling you.
I'm so glad I won't have to remember anything.
Me too. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Let's hear the latest in international news from Andrea Tanchez in the Digital Media Center.
35 al-Shabaab fighters are dead in Somalia after a U.S. airstrike on Sunday. A total of 180 fighters of al-Qaeda-affiliated groups have been killed this year. There has been an increase in airstrikes since 2017 after President Trump authorized U.S. military to carry out precision strikes. Before that, U.S. military was authorized to carry out airstrikes only in self-defense. The U.S. has about 500 troops in Somalia. Pakistan's prime minister says his country will retaliate against India after this morning's airstrike, saying the strike was uncalled for aggression. India says the airstrike was in response to credible intelligence about the potential terrorist attacks from radical jihadist groups based in Pakistan. It's the same group blamed for a suicide bombing that killed 40 people earlier this month. A professor in the UK says in the past, India has chosen not to retaliate against these terror attacks, but now may feel forced to escalate the situation. India and Pakistan are both nuclear powers. India is building a new city to attract global investors. Gujarat International Finance Tech City, GIFT City for short, plans to become a finance center like Dubai or Hong Kong. The city is working on getting people to move into the city by May. Workers are currently bussed in from surrounding areas. Within the next 2 years, they plan to build a World Trade Center complex. More than 320 Venezuelan soldiers have defected from military as U.S. continues to put pressure on dictator Nicolas Maduro. The defecting soldiers were received by Colombian authorities, and opposition leader Juan Guaido is recommending amnesty for any officers. Still, this is a small percentage of any Venezuelan army, which numbers about 200,000, and after being briefly detained on Monday, Univision reporter Jorge Ramos has a crew were deported from the country. Ramos says he was cut off while asking Maduro tough questions. The U.S. continues to fly reconnaissance flights off the coast of Venezuela, and the UN Security Council is meeting today to discuss the conflict. Australia Cardinal George Pell was found guilty of 1 charge of sexual assault of a child and 4 charges of indecent act with or in the presence of a child. Survivor attorney Vivian Waller gave a statement on her client's behalf.
Like many survivors, I have experienced shame, loneliness, depression, and struggle.
In December, the jury found Pell guilty of molesting 2 children back in the 1990s. Pell, the highest-ranking member of the Catholic Church to be convicted, will most likely face time in prison. The media was banned from reporting on the 5-week trial that began in November in Melbourne, but that order was lifted today. Pell still says he is innocent, and his legal team says they have already filed an appeal against the guilty verdict. That is all for international news. Now back to Scott and Leslie in the studio.
Now let's get the latest on health with Zach Ferber.
Comedian Jon Stewart isn't messing around when it comes to September 11th and the 9/11 terrorist attacks. Stewart wants Congress to extend the compensation program for survivors and first responders.
The program works exactly like it's supposed to.
So now it's Congress's job to fund it properly.
Stewart says the Victim Compensation Fund needs to be permanently funded. The VCF is set to expire in 2020. A Republican-backed bill on late-term abortions was blocked by Senate Democrats. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy says he was disappointed with the Democrats.
If a child survives an abortion and is alive, it should be treated just like any other newborn. Unfortunately, the Democrats said no.
The bill would have meant prison for doctors who don't save babies born alive in the third trimester abortion. Some Democrats say such births are rare and are already covered by existing law. 2020 presidential candidates Bernie Sanders and Kamala Harris both voted the measure down. The flu kills tens of thousands of people every year. On Point reporter Monica Campos spoke to health professionals about the confusion over the flu vaccine.
Prevents us from any kind of complications from the flu, not necessarily just preventing the flu. People don't know that the flu can actually cause pneumonia and other secondary infections. And if you're a child, your immune system isn't completely built up yet.
Organization and publication, and it has since been retracted that it actually had misinformation and it was a bad study design and it was inaccurate. And people losing faith in their public health research or people who they feel confident in can really damage, everybody's trust in where they get their information. And that one false study had serious implications on how people viewed immunizations and whether or not they were safe.
CSUN students with insurance can get free flu shots at any major drugstore. For more on Monica's story on vaccinations, you can go to CSUNTVnews.com. Common alcohol brands could have weed killer. A USPIRG study found traces of glyphosate in 19 of 20 beers and wines. Affected brands include Corona, Miller Lite, Budweiser, Heineken, Sam Adams, Beringer Estates Moscato, and Barefoot Cabernet Sauvignon. However, toxicologists say the amounts were small and not harmful to humans. Monsanto, the maker of Roundup Weed Killer, says the study is flawed and biased. The company has been involved in multiple lawsuits involving the herbicide and cancer risk. Joint Advocates on Disordered Eating, also known as JADE, is on CSUN's campus raising awareness about National Eating Disorder Week. The theme for this year is Hope Starts Here. Guest speakers and workshops will be provided to students during this week. JADE representatives say they want to address the impact of eating disorders and provide help for students. JADE graduate coordinator Cindy Lucio says topics such as these are not really talked about, which is why awareness is so important.
Social media and just media in general does have an impact in terms of how we see our own body image, and so it's definitely doing programming like this is kind of our way of, bringing awareness to this.
At least 30 million people of all ages and genders suffer from an eating disorder in the U.S. That's all for health news. Back to you.
Coming up on Valley View News, Chinese tech giant Huawei introduces a new phone.
Also, Porsche is going green by making its first electric car. Stay with us.
I'm a single mother, and I was the main one working, so I never thought that I could go back to school, My sister, my mother, everybody wanted to help me with my kids. I could not have gotten my diploma without my family.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
I'll never forget the day our landlord called and said, "Read your lease. No pets allowed." My owner tells him my dog ate the lease, but that didn't work. And now I'm stuck in a shelter. But this pit bull is ready for a new crib. I'm loving, loyal, and play well with others. So don't be intimidated by all my muscles, because the biggest one I have is my heart. That's right, I said it.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made her college years happen. Opening that education savings account when she was little. Spearheading a campus tour. And another, and another, and another, and another. Bam! Deciphering financial aid. She was like, what? Well, now she's like, you aced planning for college. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
Here's Luisa Rodriguez with social media and tech news.
Huawei introduced a foldable 5G device at the Mobile World Congress last weekend. The Mate X is being compared to Samsung's new Galaxy Fold. It'll be a while before consumers can buy the Huawei. The price range is steep, costing more than $2,000. Metro wants to tax Uber and Lyft. Officials claim the companies don't pay their fair share of taxes that are needed to help manage traffic congestions. A tax on rideshare could nudge more people to take public transit. LA's Metro rideshare dropped 20% in the last 5 years. The additional fee could be between 20 cents and $2.75. 12 other states already tax rideshares. The tax is meant to help improve transportation before the 2028 LA Olympics. Metro's board of directors will vote on the tax this Thursday. Facebook is under a lot of pressure to crack down on anti-vaccination propaganda, since studies show most people get their news from there. Public health experts are blaming social media platforms for the outbreak of measles across the country. They say false claims that vaccines cause diseases like autism are frightening parents into refusing to vaccinate their children. Anti-vaccine groups show up high when the word vaccine is searched. Facebook says it will not censor content, but it will put false information further down people's news feeds. Porsche plans to release an electric version of their most popular model. The Macan SUV will be fully electric by the next decade. Porsche will invest $7 billion in 3 years to make the cars. So far, there's no price given for the electric Macan. The basic model currently sells for $60,000. The company's first fully electric car, the Taycan, goes on sale this year. Facebook is also under fire for overlooking the Russian government's involvement in a viral video company. Mafic Media was based in LA and targeted millennials in their online videos. Russian government was the major stockholder in the company, with 51%. After media inquiries, Facebook agreed to suspend the pages. Virginia Senator Mark Warner says Facebook should have a clear policy when it comes to state-supported media. That's it for social media and tech. Scott and Leslie, back to you.
Today's All About Princesses and Pistachio. February 26th is National Tell Fairy Tale Day and also National Pistachio Day. So crack open some nuts and live happily ever after.
That's all for us at Valley View News. Thanks for watching. I'm Scott Gierman.
And I am Leslie Estrada. For news any time of the day, go to our website sundial.csun.edu. See you soon.